Somebody who's been following the Commission's proceedings today quite closely from the Brigitte Mabandla Justice College is my colleague Ayanda Nyati, and he joins us now for a more comprehensive wrap of everything that the Commission has heard thus far. Good morning yet again, Ayanda. So, Mr. Sesoko being put through his paces, specifically now, if we zoom in or zone in on the operational manual that he went on to draft, he's been quizzed about why he then didn't report his concerns, because after drafting that manual, which really at the heart of it sought to insulate the IDAC head against such allegations that are now being inquired or investigated upon. He says that he'll take the blame. He didn't raise those concerns, but he thought it somewhat of a futile exercise because anything brought up against Ms. Johnson was never really pursued by the former head of the NPA.
That's right, Mfundo. You've given quite a comprehensive wrap yourself, but perhaps we should pick up on the issues to do with that manual, because what Adria Johnson has actually told this commission is that the manual essentially wasn't set in stone yet. It was only in draft form. What we've heard now from Matthew Sesoko is that not only was this completed and signed, but it was distributed to all employees at IDAC. This is important because the impression that was created when the head of IDAC was here is that they weren't necessarily very firm work streams and essentially standard operating procedures. A very different picture, though, painted by Matthew Sesoko, who suggested that those standard operating procedures were there, and they were there, as you've mentioned, for very specific reasons. Perhaps as we kick off, let's take you back to that part of the testimony where Matthew Sesoko essentially said he doesn't know why Andrea Johnson painted a different picture.
Advocate Johnson said, for example, about Mr. Adams's referral. She said she did not discuss that with you because it was a simple matter, and she was of the view that she could handle it all by herself without involving you. Are you aware of any instances, or rather, how should I put it? Are you aware that the fact that a matter was simple, whatever that means, that was a factor or a criterion that could be used not to involve other people at the initial stages of a matter or of an intake?
I'm not aware of any except for that specific matter.
And that's not an issue that was ever discussed within IDAC?
No.
So she never said, with simple matters, I will not bother you, Mr. Sesoko?
No. The decision to authorize that matter was not discussed with me, commissioners. As I will continue my testimony, you'll understand.
All right.
What happened.
No, I just wanted to understand the criterion she said she used in respect of this crime intelligence, these crime intelligence matters.
And then just on the application of the manual, so to the extent that Advocate Johnson testified that the manual was just a draft, she would have been misleading this commission. Well, at its lightest, she would have lied to this commission.
Yeah, I don't understand why she said that. The manual was signed by myself and her, and then at her instruction, it was distributed to all IDAC staff.
And with that, the list of questions for Andrea Johnson just keep mounting. We do know that this commission is intending to issue a Rule 3 notice, essentially giving her a right to respond to what we've now heard since she left the hot seat. Kenny Mapanga is also here with us, our senior reporter, watching the Madlanga Commission very closely. And Kenny, let's pick up on this issue around this manual. It's important because, of course, it points to whether or not people who work at IDAC knew what steps they were meant to take when they received the complaint, and if they didn't follow that, it raises questions around why.
Absolutely, and in this context, the IDAC manual was important because it guards against the kind of problem you are seeing before the probe right now in terms of IDAC and allegedly deliberately committing unlawful acts towards a particular alleged interest. Had that IDAC manual, which we now know yet again that it existed, it was not a draft, it was signed, it was final, it was sent to all the IDAC team members, that they knew that this was the standard operating procedure and you don't go outside of this particular framework when handling the intakes. We now see that in terms of some matters, it seemingly was followed. It was followed to the T, actually, let's put it that way, in terms of how the Section 27 referrals are supposed to be handled by IDAC to guard against this alleged conflict, where you can see that the powers can easily be manipulated. And of course, IDAC can also be allegedly used as a tool if you don't guard yourself against those particular prescripts. So essentially what we are seeing is that it seemingly was followed in some matters, but in the crime intelligence matters, it wasn't. And the only inference that you can draw from that is that that was allegedly a deliberate decision. The gap was there in order to abuse, allegedly, the powers afforded to the ID, and then, of course, the processes that IDAC has, because if you think about it, it's quite a powerful institution with both investigative and prosecutorial powers. So you can do a lot with IDAC, and if you don't protect yourself or safeguard the powers in which you are afforded, then you find yourself in a situation here where you've conducted investigations and now you come before the probe and you can't explain them. But in that regard as well, as the manager or the operations manager, let's put it that way, Mr. Sesoko had a responsibility to follow that prescript, and where there wasn't that kind of line of march, as Ramsamy likes to put it, then it was his job to also intervene. And we're also seeing that at the very least, that even though he had this manual that he signed and offered to all the staff, where he was made aware, let's put it that way, because that's what the emails do. They make you aware of the fact that the processes aren't being followed and that there is alleged unlawful conduct taking place. He never took action against that particular revelation in light of the knowledge that he had of the IDAC manual itself. So there are a lot of questions that he is set to follow, and we'll probably get to the reason why that he didn't follow the particular expected conduct when he saw that this particular manual was not being followed, because he shows us evidence, or rather points to evidence, where he says that he did discuss it with the ID, that is the former IDAC head, Advocate Andrea Johnson, and she seemed to express displeasure at these two subordinates raising the kind of illegalities that was following the investigations into the crime intelligence matter. So that is what we're warming up to. But again, the consistent themes persist, and that everybody knew what was expected of them, what IDAC's mandate was, and what IDAC is set to investigate and deal with. It just seems that at this point, an alleged deliberate decision was taken to subvert those prescripts in order to serve particular alleged interests.
We also know that typically it's the ID that makes the final call around whether or not matters should be pursued, but Sesoko has come to say that he in fact made a suggestion that perhaps a new position should be created, somebody called an investigation coordinator, to protect the ID from allegations that they're pursuing particular people, but that post was never filled.
Absolutely, and in fact the manual itself creates a environment where there is a collective decision making, so that you're not open to that kind of abuse or kind of influence as the ID. But again, the prescripts were not followed, and those safeguards and measures were not implemented. And that's how the IDAC finds itself here before the Commission now, having to explain themselves, taking matters to court. They were not ready for enrollment, that had no legal factual basis, and seemingly were only geared towards targeting alleged high-ranking generals such as Lieutenant General Dumsani Khumalo and General Fani Masemola.
The organogram at IDAC has also come into sharp focus as expected. Who reports to who, under what context, which matters? Excuse me, Mr. Sesoko was dealing with. So as I try to clear my throat, perhaps it's an opportune moment to take you back to part of the testimony where Mr. Sesoko told this commission who reports to him, and surprise, surprise, the name of Mr. Dylan Perumal comes up. Take a listen.
All personnel who are under investigation will fall under my command, to use that word. So the chiefs will report to me, and then those that fall under them will report to them. For instance, the senior investigators will report to the chiefs, and then the investigators will report to senior investigators or directly to the chiefs, depending on a matter.
And then the prosecutors, who would they report to?
The prosecutors will primarily report to the DDPPs.
And then the DDPPs
in
would
the
report
different
to
levels.
Advocate Johnson.
And then the DDPPs will report to Advocate Johnson.
Yes. So you were Mr. Perumal's boss?
Yes, I was.
There you have it, Mr. Sesoko saying that he is Mr. Perumal's boss. Kenny, let's bring you back once again, because this is important, because part of what we heard from other witnesses is that Mr. Perumal would sometimes go on a frolic of his own. This was the man who was meant to rein him in.
Indeed, and Mr. Perumal seemed like the boss in most of these crime intelligence matters, but he himself was a subordinate to someone. But that doesn't translate in the evidence before the Madlanga Commission. We do know that the two chiefs were supposed to report to Mr. S, but Mr. S seems to be on the periphery. Even in the emails, he doesn't have much of a presence in terms of the alleged unlawful conduct. And that's also an alleged failure on his part in terms of reining these operations in, because it seems that Johnson and Perumal were spearheading the crime intelligence matters, did not inform Mr. Sesoko of these investigations. He seems to be on the outs, and that's precisely the problem that you're dealing with here. Who is Mr. Perumal to the extent that not only is he able to inform and influence these investigations, but also, according to Ramsamy, you would see Johnson allegedly taking a clear legal position, but when Mr. Perumal came in, it would change and become something else. And that is quite prominent in the crime intelligence matters. It's become more prudent for Mr. Perumal to be heard by the Madlanga Commission, because it seems that a lot of what took place is initiated from Mr. Perumal allegedly and Advocate Johnson allegedly.
And apparently that's how Advocate Johnson got her nickname, flip-flop knee-jerk. We'll see how it all unfolds. Of course, the commission expected to continue at 11:30. We're really warming up to ascertaining what Mr. Sesoko knew about these crime intelligence investigations, and if not much, why that is. Mfundo?
Oh, my dear Ayanda, you have to remind us of that term she was given, flip-flop knee-jerk. Always gets me every time. Thank you very much for that. That's SABC News anchor Ayanda Nyati alongside senior reporter Kenny Mapanga, both at the Brigitte Mabandla Justice College. 11:30, we take you back to the commission sharp.